Hello, curling fans. Welcome back to the Broom Brothers. It is yet another special summer edition of your favorite podcast about curling, of course, presented by the Curling Group, the official podcast of the Grand Slam of Curling. John Cullen here. I was here with you not so long ago for the Pride panel, but pleased to be once again joined by my long-lost Broom brother, the captain of Charlottetown himself, Robbie Doherty is here. Robbie, what's going on, man? Feel like I haven't seen you or talked to you in way too long.
I have a wife who's 39 weeks pregnant and a son with thank you, and a son with hand, foot, and mouth right now. So
okay, congratulations about that as well.
So yeah, it's been pretty low key around these parts. But
sounds very low key. Thank you for carving out some time for me.
Thank you. No, you're very welcome. You know what? It's summertime in PEI, which is, we have 3 good months to really live here. And we're just kind of entering the first of those 3 months. So it's pretty cool to see the tourists around. Everybody's happy. Everybody seems like they're just on vacation. So everyone is in a good mood, I should say. Love it. Just good summer vibes around here. How about yourself out west, my friend?
Yeah, good. Everything's good as well. Same kind of thing. I mean, Calgary maybe has 4 good months, but we're kind of riding that right now. So yeah, it's good. I just got back from Iceland, which was amazing, and lots of fun stuff happening, including the TCG All-Star Game. The 2025 All-Star Game is airing coming up next week. For those of you who haven't been paying attention, maybe you're also in the good months of wherever you live. It's kind of a first, but we are bringing you brand new exclusive curling content. If you live in Canada, July 1st, 8 p.m. Eastern on Sportsnet and Sportsnet Plus, it will be the TCG All-Star Game feature. And I know some of you have been asking, well, I live in America, I live internationally, what's going to happen? If you live internationally, it will be available July 2nd, streaming on the Grand Slam of Curling's YouTube channel. And if you live in America, exciting news, Thursday, July 3rd, 1 p.m. Eastern, the FanDuel Sports Network and FanDuel Sports Network app will be carrying the Curling Group All-Star Game 2025. So you won't want to miss that. You also won't want to miss our interviews with our interviews. We only did 1, but there's 2 of them. We interviewed the All-Star Game captains, John Morris and Matt Hamilton. That chat is coming up in a moment. They were great to talk to, reliving a lot of our memories from Nashville. Speaking of our memories from Nashville, Robbie, how's your memory after Nashville? How was it? What was your, I think you were a big part of the event, obviously emceeing, doing some on-camera stuff for Sportsnet. How was it for you? You've been working for the Slams for 10 years now. This must have felt like a very unique event and a cool experience for you.
Oh, very much so. Full disclosure, we finished up at the arena after the players in Toronto. I think at about 10 o'clock, 10:30. I always help kind of tear down at the end. And the bus was coming to pick us up, I believe, at 4:30 a.m.
Yeah, that was a tough wake-up call on Monday.
It was a tough wake-up call, and like full disclosure, it's tough to kind of get excited for something after you work an entire event. You know how tired you are after working a regular slam, and totally. To know that you have to go to another one and work right after. So if I told you that I was just so excited before, I might not be telling the whole truth, but man, oh man, look at it. When I got there and got into it, it was unbelievable. And those who don't know me, I have 2 real jobs. I kind of work as a broadcaster in curling, but then I also work as a musician. And when it's hot and sunny out, my favorite genre is country music. So I was in Nashville, Tennessee for a curling event working. 2 favorite things in the world. Well, and course wrestling, but there was no wrestling around that week. But it was unbelievable. Just the mix of kind of everything going on. Like our hotel was pretty close to downtown, within walking distance to Broadway, and just to see the different sites and experience the culture down there. One thing that I kind of got a kick out of, we were talking about PEI tourism earlier, but a lot of people, when they visit PEI, they kind of assume that they arrive and it's like a dock and we're all walking around in those like yellow fishing caps and, fishing gear with lobster traps over our shoulders. And then they're kind of like, oh, wait, this is just kind of another kind of small city. It's not really like that. I found Nashville was very much true to what you'd think. Like when you walk downtown, everyone really was in cowboy hats. They were really were in boots. You know, that truly is their identity, and they're just so hospitable. You know, and even around the curling event, all the local volunteers were unbelievable. They wanted to go so far out of their way to help you out, make sure that you weren't just there to visit and to work and be comfortable, but to really take home some lifelong memories. And I can't speak for you, John, but for me, it definitely accomplished that. So glad I went. It was such a fun event, especially when we were all just so tired from the week before. It was on, but I think you can attest to that. That didn't stop us. So
no, definitely not. Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think even for me, obviously, as you said, city of Nashville, really cool. That was a really fun experience for me as well. And I don't even like country music, and it was still a fun experience for me. But also just the T line itself. You know, what a cool venue. You know, I thought walking in there, it just was unlike anything I'd ever experienced. I've been curling since I was 11 years old, you know, and I'm almost 40. So it's nothing like I've ever really seen. And so just walking in there and like you said, the vibes were so high. The fans who were there were so excited to be there, mingle with the curlers. Like there really was no velvet rope, you know, or whatever. I think, you know, we talk about curlers being really accessible, and I think they are. You know, we see that at the end of every draw at a slam. There's lineups of people wanting autographs and pictures, and every curler obliges all of that. And I think we talk a lot about how accessible curlers are just in general. But Nashville was like another level of that. It was truly like we were all in one place, curlers, fans, you and I, the curling group, all the VIPs. Everybody was just an equal there. Everybody was hanging out, having a good time, and just we all have this one thing in common, and that's that we love curling. And so it really felt like a celebration of the sport, and it was really special to be there. You know, I think it's unlike anything that any curling you know, organization has ever tried. And I really enjoyed it. Now, obviously there's all the off ice stuff, but the on ice stuff was very cool too. There was the skills competition, the pro-am, the actual All-Star game itself. As I said earlier, you were of course involved in the broadcast. I was there doing some content. But as someone who worked on the broadcast and was there kind of on the ice and working with all the curlers and everything, what are you most looking forward to seeing about the broadcast? Because I think that's also something about this is we haven't really seen curling do this kind of feature where the All-Star game happened 2 months ago and it's about to air next week for the first time, and they're kind of putting everything together in a package. What are you most excited for on the broadcast?
Well, I'm going to answer that in two parts. Number one is I'm very excited just to see the finished product, because I walked in there, you know, the Monday after the slam, as I had mentioned, and just seeing the club when I got there versus the club, what it looked like physically before we went to start taping and start the full event. It was a pretty big transformation, just laying down flooring over one sheet to set up bleachers. It just really kind of came along so fast, and they did an amazing job. It looked incredible. It looked very, very cool. Very different.
It looked really cool.
Yeah, very, very, just like nothing else I've ever seen before. And then, you know, in my role, you're just moving all the time. You're trying to jump to interview somebody. You got to do a little hit here about something on camera, and you really don't have time to just kind of sit and watch the game. So I'm kind of interested to see how everything kind of played out, even though I know the results. I saw most of the big moments in person, but I'm really excited just to see it played back, see what it looked like, you know, see what it sounded like. You talked about the fans down there. They're so passionate. You can, you know, say what you want, but American sports fans in general, you can't deny their passion for when they support their team. And I like how they brought that to curling. It wasn't kind of like, well, we're going to a curling event, so we're going to act like a traditional curling crowd with the sort of, they were into it. And even our curling club here, our club manager, amazing guy, Travis, he moved here from Kentucky. And anyway, he's got kids. And I said one day, hey, I have season tickets to our CHL team. If you ever want them, go ahead. And he asked if he could take the kids one night. And I was actually working the game, sort of doing what I do here with the slams. And I look over, and Travis was in the front row with a jersey on, face painted, just banging on the glass, saying, "Go Islanders, go!" And I was like, "Wow, they are passionate about their sports south of the border." But then we got to Nashville for curling, and here it was. Everybody was just into it. They were cheering. They were just included. They almost felt just as vital of a part of the event as the curlers did, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, 100%.
Yeah, in part two, I think it was just really cool to be part of history and just kind of seeing that, you know what, we've heard for so many years, famous podcasters, media people, curlers themselves talking about this expansion of curling in the States. And we hear about how many new clubs there are and how many more, fans there are of the game. And every 4 years, this and da-da-da. But now we get to see it. For the first time, we really, truly get to see it. I know we saw a couple of events in Las Vegas with the Continental Cup and so forth. But this is a very intimate, sort of smaller, but way more passionate crew who came out to celebrate and prove that they truly do love the sport. And it's just something that's never, ever been seen. And to be part of that, I really think this is going to go down in the history books. And it was really just an honor to be a part of it. And it's going to be cool to see it.
Yeah, I agree. And I think one thing that I kind of didn't bring up before, to kind of go along with how, everybody was an equal and the fans and everyone got a chance to just be one group that was all in Nashville together. I think the other thing is, I know a lot of curling fans, one thing they love about the sport is the bonds that the athletes themselves have with each other. And I think there's been a few viral moments this year illustrating the friendship between Rachel Homan and Alina Petz, and just like Team Homan and Team Tirinzoni in general. And I think that's one thing that people really love about the sport. And I think this is going to take it to another level. As you said, these curlers were coming off the last Grand Slam of the year. For a couple of the men, they had the men's worlds right before, like Hammy and Brad Jacobs. They were coming, they literally were at men's worlds for 2 weeks, then the players championship for a week, then right to Nashville. And, and then, like we said, even for the women's worlds competitors, like that wasn't too far before the players championship either. And so you're talking about curlers, very busy schedules. The AMJ Players Championship is usually sort of the blow off. We're done with the season. Then to go to Nashville, I think there was this sense of, is everybody going to be kind of tired? And it's been a really long, as you said, a long week at the players, blah, blah, blah. And it was really just like special to see all the curlers come together. There was something invigorating, I think, about us all, as you said, being a part of history. And that was really, I think, what is going to come out in the broadcast too, because you have the skills competition, you have the pro-am, you have the game itself. You also have the features. I did some really fun features there. Went cowboy hat shopping with some legends of curling. Jennifer Jones, Colleen Jones, Hammy was there as well. Devin Haru, who you're going to see a lot of on the broadcast as well, doing play-by-play and also some voiceover work and that kind of thing. And then, we did line dancing. We did bull riding. We did the hot wing challenge. We did there was just so much fun content that I think really the curlers, as soon as they got to Nashville, they relaxed and they really showed how close they all are. And even for maybe curlers they didn't know before they got to Nashville, forming new friendships and new relationships with curlers they maybe didn't know. It was just a really, really fun thing to be a part of. And I think that's really going to come through on the broadcast too, is the fans who love that the curlers are all friends and all do have these great relationships with each other are really going to get to see that in Nashville, which I think is awesome. And we're about to get to John Morris and Matt Hamilton, but I'll leave Robbie. I'll give you the last word here. We do ask this same question of John and Matt, but would you like to see the All-Star Game come back? Should this become an annual or a semi-annual type event for the curling group?
I think absolutely. No doubt in my mind. I think it was such a good way for new fans, but also like true fans. Sorry, I know that rhymes, but truly diehard fans who were there, who made the trips and we'll get into that in the interview. I'm not going to give away too much, but people who were there were so pumped to be there and really sacrificed a lot and made some big arrangements and did what they had to do. I had multiple people tell me how far they drove just to be there. Again, we'll talk about it later, but I think it was just such a great way for the heroes of the sport to connect with fans, especially in an area that's not traditionally a curling hotbed per se. And I think, it's not just the location. I think it works anywhere, but it really gives a chance for our stars, our real top athletes of our sport to showcase what they can do. And also for them to show their appreciation for the fans who stood by them all these years and really cheered for them and believed in them, not just at the slams, I mean, at the Olympics, on the big stages where they really needed it. So it was almost a way for the fans to see a different side of the athletes, but also as a way for the athletes to say thank you to the fans. So I really hope, I really hope it continues. It's going to be an excellent broadcast. I encourage everybody to watch it if you can, this Canada Day in Canada. I want to hear your thoughts on that though, John, just before we move on. I know we've been interviewed to get to, but
I mean, you said it perfect. I honestly don't really have too much more to add. Really special thing. And I think we do talk about this with John and Matt, but I think there's always some trepidation when it's the first one, right?
Yep.
When it's, and look, the tickets were not cheap. And as you said, people traveled from a lot of places to get there. And so, when it's the very first one, I can understand being a fan and thinking like, oh, is this going to be worth it for me? And I think all of the fans without question felt like they got way more, way more than it was costing them to get there in terms of the value. And I think when people see the broadcast and when they hear from their friends who were there, how much fun they had, I think we're going to see if they do it again. I mean, this one was well attended, but it's just going to grow because people are going to say, wow, this is a really unique curling event. And it's going to be, I think, it's going to become like a bucket list item for fans, I think,
100%.
where they're going to say, I don't know when, I don't know how, but I'm going to get to one All-Star game in my life, and I'm going to experience that. So yeah, it's definitely something they should do again. Looking forward to that. But without any further ado, the two captains of the All-Star teams are here to talk about their experience. It's our interview with John Morris and Matt Hamilton. Okay, we are pleased to be joined by the 2025 TCG All-Star Game captains, John Morris and Matt Hamilton. And considering this is both of your first appearances on the show, we do have to run you through the top four. This is where I'm going to give you 4 quick questions. You're just going to give me the first answer that pops into your mind. John, you'll answer first, and then Matt, you will follow right after on all 4. All right, you guys ready to go?
Yeah.
Okay, John, we're starting with you. Who is someone you've never played with before that you would most like to?
Wayne Madaw.
Terry Burtnick.
Oh, that's a good one. If you know that both sets of rocks are good, there's no problem with either set. What color are you taking?
If blue's an option, give me the old blueberries.
In the standard red-yellow, I'd rather have red because I can see yellow better at the other end.
Okay, I like that. What's your favorite city to play in that's not your hometown?
Nashville.
Kurosawa.
Oh, Kurosawa. Yeah,
That is a good one, Matty. I'll give you that. That was killer.
Yeah. And final one, describe the other guy in one word.
The Muzzinator.
Handsome.
That's an easy one. That's an easy one. All right, Robbie, go ahead.
Yeah, no, welcome, guys. Good to have both you on the show here. 2 names that I've been wanting to have on for a long time, so I'm just trying to pump your tires a little bit before I get going. But fresh off the All-Star Game in Nashville, what an event it was. What are your thoughts on it going into it? Like before it started, what were you hoping to get out of it per se? What did you expect going into it, and how did it all kind of play out in your thoughts? Start with John.
You know what? I think what what Nashville brought and kind of what we were expecting was, the Grand Slams are owned by this new curling group, and they're exciting and they love to have fun and kind of showcase and celebrate the game of curling in new ways that we've never seen. And this was kind of like the coming out party. And didn't really know exactly what to expect. Hadn't hung out with a lot of these curlers, too much before. And obviously, a new venue in a new ice in Nashville, but it was everything we expected and more. And not only was it a great time on the ice, a lot of laughs, it was one hell of a good time off the ice too. So just
How so?
Hopefully it's an annual or at least every couple year thing, because it was sure a hit.
Hey, Matt?
For me, like John, I didn't really know what to expect. Obviously, I knew the rock group and there's new slams, the Grand Slams of curling that were going on. Like they're trying to do something different, so I knew it'd be something that was going to be a lot of fun, and it did not disappoint in that regard. But what it kind of turned out to be, it was like a better version of the Continental Cup, which is an event that I think everyone who's ever played in it thinks it's like the greatest event ever. This kind of blew it out of the water because we got to not only play with like Canadians as like an American, but like some of the Europeans were also on your team. So like that made it a lot more fun, I think, for us. But it was like Continental Cup vibes, except not so stiff. It was even more fun than that. So I had a blast.
What do you think made it like a little less stiff than the Continental Cup? Like, is it just still that there's expectations that you want to win the Continental Cup or something? Or
no, there was full expectations that you want to win this event too. So like that wasn't it. It was more just I knew how much fun Nick and the rest of the team at the rock group and the Grand Slams of curling are, and how much fun they like try to show that we're having out on the ice. And they've been able to portray that good time on the ice better than any event I've ever been to. So that's part of it. Just like knowing that they were going to make sure everything was going to be top notch. Like we were going to have a great facility, great ice conditions, after game bevies, whichever they may be, which turned out to be a blast as well. So like just the way it was set up and all the extracurricular things like renting out a bar and like a honky tonk in Nashville, and going out and getting cowboy hats and stuff like that. Like they had all these fun things for curlers to do when they weren't just curling. So that was aces for me.
And I think too, Johnny, that one thing that's kind of separated from the Continental Cup per se is we got to play, like, first of all, there was a draft. So that first draft night, you didn't know who you were playing with. We didn't know who was going to be on our team as captains. So that was exciting. I think that was like a real highlight of it, was just that first draft night. And then secondarily, like playing together with Europeans, with Canadians, with North Americans, and just was a real good vibe that way. So I think that was kind of what really added to it for me.
Do you think that events like this are important for the overall growth of the game, and maybe ways to just reach a new audience, people who haven't heard of it? Maybe we'll start with Matt. If you could just talk about that a little bit, and how and why do you think it would help maybe reach new people or grow the game worldwide?
As far as reaching new people, like I said earlier, they are able to showcase the amount of fun that players are having. And I think when you can really like, you've got players mic'd up and they're having a good time, you get to like feel like these players are also people too. Like this is a great sport where we're not wearing helmets, the cameras aren't like a mile away. You are in the huddle essentially, and you get to see like real people doing their thing at the highest level, which I think is really approachable for like a common fan, someone who might not curl but is just like into the game. And as far as people that do curl, like the idea of it and seeing how this like plays out and the way that they pick teams, and it's just something that you can like hopefully look forward to and want to be a part of, and honestly go to the event. Like the fans in the stands in Nashville were having just as big of a blast as we were, and like we were engaging. So like that kind of like real personal, up close and personal kind of like vibe that was going on, really, I think sets this sport apart, and the way that the Rock Group and the Grand Slam of Curling decided to approach filming and recording like curling in general. It's just so personable.
John?
Yeah, I think Matty nailed it. I think that one great thing about curling and curlers is that we're a different breed than pro athletes. And like you'll watch us curling on the ice, and then after the game we're signing autographs, but we're also at the beer gardens as well, or the patch as well, and we're really down to earth folks. So I think that when I was chatting with a few of the fans that came to Nashville, they're saying we didn't really know what to expect coming to Nashville, and they're like, this is one of the best times we've ever had at a curling venue, and we got to make sure we tell our friends next year, because I don't think a lot of people really knew what they're getting themselves into as fans. And then at the end of the weekend, they were like, this was the most value we've ever got from a fan experience, whether in venue activities and just being able to engage with curlers. And I think that's really what we want to start, doing more of in curling, is just really pumping up that in-venue experience and that entertainment factor. So we want to give fans a reason to get their butts to the rink and not just watch it on TV.
Yeah, I think that's well said. And I want to pick up on the Nashville of it all, because I think I have, I live in Calgary. There's lots of curling fans here in Calgary. I know, John, you're just outside the city as well. And I think even people who live in Canada are surprised to hear that there's a curling bar in Nashville and that it's, such a unique and fun place. Matt, I want to ask you about this, because really, I think in the last decade, and kind of a lot of it sparked from your Olympic gold medal win, curling has been really growing in the States. And can you talk a little bit about that? Like, 10 years ago, I feel like a curling bar in Nashville is not something we could have imagined happening. Like, tell us a little bit about the growth of the game in the States and what it meant for this All-Star game to be taking place in not really like a curling hotbed like Tennessee.
So, first of all, like you said, since that gold medal, curling in the United States has been popping off. Like, there's clubs in the Carolinas, there's clubs in Florida, Texas, Arizona, there's groups in California, there's a curling club in Las Vegas now. Like, the growth of it after the gold medal has been insane. And I feel so privileged to be a part of that. And like, what I was able to do on the ice created this exposure to a sport that I had like literally given my life to see it really like get its wings and start to fly here in the States has been amazing. And the fact that it's growing, like, not just in the northern states where there is commonly curling ice, but like places that don't even see snow are getting curling clubs, and it's kind of like next level. So just to be a part of that and know that, like, hey, you contributed to the growth. You're the guy with the mustache. Like, that's part of the reason people got into it. Like, I'll talk to fans and they're like, I don't know who you are, but you were the guy with the mustache. And I was like, yeah, that's me. I'm the mustache curler. So just like having that like recognition in the sport and seeing how it's taken off, and people are also like falling in love with the game the same way I did, has been like a crazy experience I'll never forget.
Can I add to that a little bit, Matt?
Yeah.
One question I had is, what amazed me about being down there, and when we just be, in the bar after the draws or at night or sitting around between, I'd always try to meet the people who I haven't met yet, the fans visiting, and I always kind of talk to them like I talk to any other curling crowd wherever we go for Grand Slam. So whether it's Saskatchewan or PEI or Nova Scotia or wherever, but I'd kind of always just assume they're local, and I'd say, so, you know what, we're heading downtown tonight. What's a spot we have to go to? And every one of them, it seemed like, said, I don't know. I drove in from blank. I drove in from North Carolina. I drove in from California. I drove in from Florida. Is that part, I guess the way I'm going to word this is the American curling culture in terms of fans a little bit different in the sense that maybe there's not as many, but they might even be more passionate than Canadian?
So yes and no. I would say
I just want to interrupt. Like, these two different people, like, they drove thousands of miles
Yeah.
To see this in person. And not that there aren't passionate Canadian fans or any international fans, but it just seemed like they were die hard to get there and nothing was going to stop them.
I think a lot of it, and a testament to the people putting on like the Grand Slams and everything like that, curling is so much more attainable in the US now than it ever was. So like when there's a curling event like this, the US has never really seen anything like that. Like we don't have exposure to curling outside of the Olympic years. So like when they have that opportunity, they don't want to squander it. So like I would say the passion's probably equal, but the desire to go to something like this when you know it doesn't happen, 5 times a year in Canada, or like opportunity like that, like they don't want to miss out. So I will say they are definitely willing to travel for something that does not, at least in the past, has not been commonplace, where Canadians, like, if you're in Saskatchewan, you're like, oh, we'll probably have a slam somewhere in the province in the next year or two. Like, I don't have to go to Alberta or Manitoba to go to a curling event. Like, it'll come to me eventually. In the United States, you don't have that option. You go wherever it happens to be. Like, we had people from Annapolis. Like, we had people all over. The Navy curling team came and hang out with us,
they were
which
awesome.
was pretty incredible. Yeah, like they were pilots and helicopter pilots, and yeah, it was fun to like get their stories and find out like where they're coming from, why they showed up, and yeah, it's humbling when like they're like, oh yeah, John Morris was coaching this team, and Matt, you obviously American curling icon, are coaching this team. We weren't gonna miss this for the world.
Yeah, I mean, I love that. And speaking of U.S. curling events, tickets for the Grand Slam GSOC Tahoe are available now, theGrandSlamOfCurling.com. John, I want to talk about the All-Star Game itself. You were named a captain pretty early in the process. What was your thought as far as what your role might be? Were you diving in early on what's my strategy going to be? Like, what did it mean to you to be named a captain? And, what were some of your thoughts around how you might approach the event?
Just a sec. I got to put on my Nashville thinking cap for this one. Just a sec, right?
Here we go.
All right.
What a showman. What a showman.
Yeah, get into my Nashville mode again.
Yeah. John,
you know what? It was an absolute honor, as Maddie said earlier, just an honor to be picked to be a captain of these teams. Yeah. We didn't know who we were getting until that draft that night. And I think it really was a cool dynamic. Like it was, when you're the captain, you don't know what kind of influence you're going to have on these games and on these teams. But it was really cool the way it kind of, being able to change the lineup. We can't get into the results right today, but we're going to get into the guts of how what we were able to do. And I felt it was really unique to be able to change the lineups around, because we've all been part of a curling game where, let's say one of the positions is struggling, but you're stuck with them. It's like, okay, how are we going to work around our second or our third today? But there we actually were able to, manipulate the lineup every end or two. And it was pretty cool. I thought that was a real unique aspect of it that really added to the entertainment. And also, as you guys will find out, there was a lot of strategy that went into that. So, but it was just a blast being able, not only to be able to do that, but in that atmosphere. Going back to your point earlier about, how exciting and how much hype curling's getting in the States. One of the reasons it's getting a lot of hype is because they're creating these really exciting venues like T-Line. Like, I think that if there was T-Lines all over Canada, curling would be, you wouldn't have some curling clubs in small town Saskatchewan closing down. If you had something where the entertainment factor was what is at T-Line, where you can bring some corporate friends there, you can, there's bowling, you can have a live band there. Like, that is, to me, that's the way to curl, is just to really celebrate and to have a great time. And that was what Nashville was able to bring. So I'm sure everyone's going to witness that on Canada Day when they get to see it on Sportsnet. But man, was it pretty cool. And Matt and I, you guys probably don't know this, but I think it was a great pick having Matt and I as captains, because we actually go back, like Matt's hosted me for the Madtown Double Down, Madison, Wisconsin, a lot of mixed doubles events there. I've hosted him up in Canada when I was living in the mountains. I actually took him hunting with me. Brought a slingshot, and he had a USA bandana on.
Yeah.
So we go back. So it was great because we could chirp each other pretty good, and it was all genuine, good stuff. And at the end of the day, we sure still wanted to. We had pride on the line, so there was we were gunning for each other. So good time.
There's no
Absolutely.
video footage of that hunting trip, is there?
There's the really gnarly photo of me.
There might be, yeah.
Oh man,
My
that would be
outfit
awesome.
was it was so good. I looked like I was hunting.
Oh man! So both of you, team captains. The event started kind of in a unique way. There was a team selection, not a typical draft where perhaps you have your desired lineup in mind and you pick, but it was all done at random. Matt, you seem to end up with mostly skips on your team. How did you feel about your chances going into it? And how did that kind of shake up your thought process and how you're going to lead that team to greatness? And John, I'll come to you with the same question.
I mean, my team was stacked. Like on paper, you're like, these are some of the best shooters in the world. Granted, everybody there was a fantastic shooter, but
Sure.
I loved the team. I was a little nervous because we didn't have many sweepers, so I was like, hey, these guys might have to be a little more pure shooting than play into their sweepers like they're used to, because all these guys and gals also have a fantastic sweeping front ends that can help make their shots for them as well. So, as far as like a pure shooter contest, I was like, Johnny's he's hooped. Like this team is too darn good. I've got the strategy. I've been thinking about it. Like Johnny probably hasn't been thinking about it. He's too focused on like what cowboy hat he's gonna wear, which pearl button snap up shirt he's gonna wear so he can look good for the camera. I was dialed in. I was in coach mode. So it was
You were
pretty
dialed in
awesome
all right.
the draft is so fun. Like
Yeah.
nobody knows who's going where. We use like ping pong balls with numbers and names to see what team went to who, or what player went to what team. So that was pretty incredible moment when I look at my final lineup and I think like of my 6 players, I had like 5 skips. It was pretty awesome. I was stoked.
Just to review for the fans, Matt's lineup ended up being Brad Gujou, Alina Petz, Rachel Homan, Brad Jacobs, who ended up having a slight injury. He was replaced by Tyler Tardy. And then you also had Matt Dunstone and Sarah Wilkes. On the other side of the coin, Johnny, you didn't really have any skips. You only had 2 skips. Your team was Emma Miskew, Carrie Anerson, Hammy McMillan, Colton Flash, Ross White, and Sophia Mabergs. Were you feeling kind of the opposite of Matt? Like, oh, geez, I don't have too many skips here. I might be in trouble. Or did you like your lineup from the outset?
Well, I think to the casual curling fan, I think the odds, if you would have after the draft, the odds were like, what would it be? Minus 20,000 for Matt, because they had, I think, the top 4 men's and women's skips in the game, but I've curled with a couple teams in my day, and I realized that skips can be quirky. They're like goalies in hockey. Like you got to sometimes massage them the right way and make sure that they have their tea with their with the right amount of cream in it, or else they might be a little bit off put. So I wasn't too disappointed that I didn't have all skips, and we had some great scrubbers on our squad, and I could tell right away from our vibe. We got together. We that first night we kind of like went over some things, and just I could tell from our vibe. I'm like, man, I'm gonna love this experience. We didn't have, as I said, skips. We've all been on teams where there's sometimes too many skips on a team, even though they're not playing the position. But they all think they should be calling the shots and calling the strategy. And sometimes that can be a challenge. So it was pretty interesting.
Yeah, John, you know a little bit about that, I think.
Yeah, I was just thinking that.
Sometimes I'm sure I've been that guy too. So yeah, it was.
Been on some teams with some other skips before. Yeah. Like, okay, John.
Yeah, exactly.
Every team you've ever been on.
Every team I've been on. Yeah. So,
John was running over BJ with his car to tell Kevin what calls to make.
I text BJ mid-game. I'll be like, BJ, tell Kev this at the other end. No, it was quite the dynamic difference, and I think it'll be very telling when we get to see this stuff in action.
Totally. Yeah. And I was going to say, Matt, I kind of brought it up when the lineups were coming out, but you sort of also had to deal with some adversity because you draft your initial lineup of 6. Brad Jacobs is one of the members of your team. And then turns out he's got a bit of a groin pull, has to leave or not leave, but doesn't play in the All-Star game. Tyler Tardy replaces him as captain. Was that something you kind of had to figure out exactly how that was going to play out? Did you know in advance that was going to happen? Was that a game time decision? How did you kind of deal with that?
Well, I did witness the groin pull, if you will, when we were out and about at a honky tonk. So I guess I wasn't surprised that he wasn't going to play. So, I mean, honestly, though, Tyler Tardy, with a team of skips, like I had a front ender that could scrub, so I wasn't super concerned with it. It did change the strategy a little bit, but at the same note, like I kind of decided I was going to captain democracy style. Like I brought the team together and we talked about how things were going to play out and like who wanted to be at what position and when. And like when we were on the bench during ends, I was talking to the 2 players, the 2 subs ready to come in. I was like, okay, where do you think we got to play? Why do you think you got to go in there? And we kind of like had a good like discussion of, why and when. So it was definitely a little bit of a hiccup, but by no means did that derail our team at all.
You said you led by democracy, if you will. That
Yes.
was kind of your coaching style. But
We
one
were
thing
in America.
No, well,
after
that's true.
The election was stolen.
I was going to say, I think a lot of people are thinking of America as a pillar of democracy at the moment. So
Yeah, exactly.
does make sense.
No, you kind of answered my question. I was going to ask to both of you about your strategies heading into it, and if it turned out the way that you had envisioned it and saw it, and if it worked or not. But I'm going to add to that question for both of you, without giving away too much. One thing I noticed, obviously, with the different setup of the game, with more players on a team, etc., it seemed like the role of the coach was a lot different than a traditional curling game. You guys were very involved. You were more of like a basketball or a hockey coach from the bench, kind of leading the charge, being involved in the game. Did you like that? And do you think that down the road in curling that is something that perhaps we'll see more of?
So personally, I thought it was really fun. Again, like you get the coach's personality in it. And a lot of times coaches can be a lot of fun, and seeing that personality instead of just like a quick little glance or maybe the timeout, like we got to talk every single end. There's a little thing called a sure shot, which you got to call. If you were like super confident your player was going to make a certain shot, you could call a sure shot. So just the whole situation where the coaches got to not only like be there as a tool or like somebody who can like give advice, they actually were people that were a part of the game. And it's like something we've never seen before in curling. And as somebody who, believe it or not, is not shy and really enjoys the camera, that was the perfect role for me.
I thought you were talking about Ross White for a second.
Yeah.
Well, and it's interesting too, because curling, if you compare it to other sports, curling is one of the only sports where your coach doesn't have access to the players throughout the game, except for halftime and 2 timeouts. And I think that's like, I've always thought it was strange that our coach would get like reprimanded if he's like asking us in the middle of an end, if we need something. And it's like, they get in trouble by the official, and it's like, they're not, so I think that, and what this showed with this game is that coaches can really have an important role, and it's vital to, have that, because one thing that I found from this game was that, and what I enjoyed about it was, as a coach, you're able to read your players throughout the game. And when you only have 2 timeouts in the game, there's barely much. There's the odd strategic help you can give, but for the most part, you're not doing a lot. Whereas in this situation, you could read and react your players. Let's say there's someone, brimming with confidence and they're feeling it, right? And we were able to kind of make decisions that would maximize that player's ability to impact the game. And at the same time, if someone's really struggling, it's nice to be able to, hey, to call them over middle of the end. Hey, come on, hey, don't worry about that last one. Get the next one. Maybe think about the in turn instead of the out turn, because your out turn's not, not feeling the out turn right now. So things like that, I really thought that dynamic with how it worked was pretty cool. And I think that hopefully this is a sign of things to come, because I think that, coach's role should be more important than it is. And I think it should be emphasized more. And, I think that this game, if you're watching it, really kind of emphasize that. So
I started curling late. I think I started when I was 15. Like I stopped playing hockey at 14 and started curling at 15. And I remember my first game in a provincials with, 2 timed timeouts and kind of a real structure to the game when, you're only allowed to do certain things. And I remember the other team's coach got in trouble because they tried to signal behind the glass or something, or they got caught. And I remember asking my team, just saying, what is happening? Why are they in trouble? And they said, well, they were trying to help the team or something like that. And I said, they're the coach. Coming from hockey, isn't that their job? So
Yeah.
I personally, as a fan, I really enjoyed it. I know that the people are going to see it on Canada Day on TV, and it'd be interesting to hear what their feedback is on the involvement, because I just thought it was a really, really cool thing and different, and it had added some excitement. Even kind of my TV mind went to, if there's a big moment in the game and a team's trying to call a shot and they're talking about it, but then you split the screen, you go to the other skip talking to the coach, and you can kind of listen in to hear what they're talking about. Just added a different layer of excitement and intensity, I guess, to the game.
I mean, you look at every single sport out there, from football, hockey to golf, even golfers can talk to their caddy and get a feel for what's going on in between shots. Football, you can pull a guy onto the sideline after a play and tell him hey, this is what I'm seeing. Get out there and do it. So at the end of the day, it's still about player execution. But if you have a coach that can see something and can help a player make a change for the better, that just makes the game better. And if the game's better, it's more approachable and fun to watch. So it seemed like a big flaw for a long time in curling when coaches, you get this limited time. So even if you get a timeout, your focus is the shot at hand. I can't go to the second and be hey man, your intern's getting a little squirrely. If you can find out turns or tell the skip hey, play out turns for him. I can't relay that information in the 1 minute I have to talk to this team, because they just want to talk about the shot that's coming up and how they want to go about the next couple shots. So the fact that you can do this in every other sport in the world except for curling, I think it's about time that curling caught up with the Joneses, so to speak, and now we had an opportunity to really have an impact on the game throughout the game instead of just these little moments in a 2-hour time frame, 3-hour time frame.
Here.
Yeah, and it might encourage more coaches to be involved. I think there's still a lot of, not so much on the women's side of the game, but on the men's side of the game, there's still a lot of teams that don't really have coaches, or if they do, they just add a coach for the Briar, or their coach is a sports psychologist or whatever, it, as you said, Matt, might improve the overall way that we play the game. If a coach can be more involved, I think it would put pressure on teams to have one, and to have one that they trust and they interact with. And I think that's interesting for sure. Now, I don't want to reveal too much. Obviously, we're keeping things under wraps until the ASG airs. But John, I'll start with you. Who do you think at the end of the day ended up being your team's MVP? Who is the most valuable player for Team Morris out there?
Off ice or on ice?
Well, I think off ice is the unanimous MVP. So I don't even think that's a question worth asking. But on the ice, yes. Go ahead.
Well, I'll tell you what, Colton Flash sure brought it off the ice. On the ice, different. It was a bit of a different story for the old Flash, but you know what? I think it was. You'll see. We had one gal that really stepped up and was our unanimous MVP, and that was Carrie Anderson. she had that fire in her eyes, and yeah, she was. We were riding that horse all the way to, was it an extra end? Can't remember, Maddie. But
Tough
Yeah,
to
we
it
say. I
came
can't
down to the
remember
wire,
either.
that's for
came
sure.
down to the wire, and yeah, Carrie Anderson was just our star on the ice that day for sure.
Maddie?
Our team, like you couldn't have written it any better. Like rivals at the slams, rivals at the how excuse me, like the Scotties and the women's national championship in Canada. My team MVP was Rachel Homan. And you couldn't write it any better for Einerson to be the MVP of Johnny's team and Rachel to be the MVP of our team, because those two, when they play each other, they just have fire in their eyes and they're like, I will not be outdone. So Rachel Homan, I think, is the MVP of Team Hamilton.
Last question for me, for both of you. Let's start with Matt. Is there any one moment that really stands out about the whole week for you? Just not even necessarily as a captain, but just, as a former, or as a player, a longtime curling fan, just being at the first ever curling All-Star Game.
I mean, like the whole thing was super incredible, from like being able to chat with the fans. Even like while I'm sitting on the bench, fans could like chirp me or like talk to me about stuff that's going on. So like that's really fun. But for me, I think like the really fun part was we had like a celebrity match or pro-am, and we got to see some football players curl. We got to play with some legends in Glenn Howard. So like I think that was, for me, like one of the coolest parts is just being a part of like that pro-am group where, it wasn't really about the curling. It was about the camaraderie, being out on the ice, playing a game that we're all enjoying and having fun with. So like for me, I think that was my favorite part.
Nice. John?
Well, when you mentioned Kittle, like one cool thing about, so curling is caught on so much and it's considered such a cool new niche sport in places like the States, that George Kittle in his offseason plays on a curling team, and they play at the National Curling Club. And he plays with like TJ Hawkinson. Like these are guys that are, like they're on our fantasy football teams that we dream of meeting. And now that we're like, yeah, you guys curl on a team in your off season. So it's pretty cool to learn that. That was pretty awesome being able to hang out with Kittle. But one of what stands out to me was getting to know these players. Like when you play against Europeans on tour, a lot of the time they play, you play, you go your separate ways. A lot of the time you don't really get to know the Euros. The Euros know each other, the Canadians know each other, and the Americans kind of know each other, and the Asians know each other. But what was cool about this was the first time I really got to see some of these players come out of their shell and not be on TV and not have the pressure of the world on them. And, and it was just let them get out of their shell and get to know, other curlers that they played against on tour, and just getting to know guys like Ross White, Lena Patch, Sophia, and they're just all genuine great people. And I think that was what was really cool, was that just seeing the dynamic and seeing everyone just having a great time together in a light that usually you don't get to witness that. So to me, that's what stood out. And yeah, I'm looking forward to Nashville 2.0, whether it's in Nashville or if we're going to be moving to another venue. We'll soon find out.
Well, that's a great segue to my last question, which was going to be, number one, should we do the All-Star Game again? And as you alluded to earlier, John, probably not next year with the Olympics, the advent of Rock League, but maybe in non-Olympic years. So number one, do we do the All-Star Game again? Number two, if you were in charge of it, where are you putting it? Should it go back to Nashville, or would you like to see it be in different spots? Matt, we'll start with you.
100%. It's got to come back. It's such a cool event. I think I would also throw in like player votes for like maybe two of the players get to be voted in by peers. And then you have, like a couple different phases. It was just fan vote, I believe, for this one. I would like to see like player vote, and then maybe like the Grand Slam groups get like a player or two to vote in. Really so much fun. Like, it's got to happen again. And two, I would say, yeah, keep it in Nashville. One, it's in America, and I love that. It's easier for me to get to. Whether I'm playing, coaching, or just gonna go as a fan, like that would be really awesome. But I think it would be cool to like establish it as like, this is it. This is the location. We go here for the All-Star Game year in and year out. So even if it's not Nashville, it would be fun to like find a city that like adopts it. But the way that the fans showed up in Nashville, and the fact that it's a pretty cool destination, even if you're Canadian, to come down to an awesome city, like once the curling's done, there's plenty of stuff to do. So like I think having a really cool city, like a destination city as the home of All-Star Game or a curling event, like that would be how I would do it.
Johnny?
Yeah, I think you got to have like, whether it's an All-Star Game, and I think the All-Star Game is kind of the easy, having the Pro-Am. We did a competition with skills
Like hot
competition
shots.
before. So hot shots, having a special event like that with the All-Star Game, whether it's every year, at least every second year, if it's an Olympic year, I think is crucial. It just really showcases the fun part of our game, and it kind of celebrates and highlights who we are and what we want to do, and hard to argue with Nashville again, because they did such a good job at T-Line. Our whole team that was working with them, putting it on, was, it was just done to the nines. But also, there's so much to do after the fact, and I think that if we don't have it at Nashville, we got to bring it to a destination. Whether that's like, I heard Austin, Texas is cool. I think it'd be pretty cool to showcase the sport of curling in a place like Austin, Texas. I know we've talked about Chateau Montebello, which is this really cool Fairmont resort in Quebec, and they actually have a couple of lanes of curling, sheets of curling right in the hotel. So like, I think that what we want to do is showcase just a really special event where we can bring some fans, some VIP sponsors and clients, and just showcase what we're all about, and just celebrate our game of curling and have a great time doing it. And I think it's going to be a staple on the curling group's calendar moving forward, and we'll just have to see where it falls. And I'll tell you this much: if I was still curling, this would be like, I'd probably want to make it more to the Skins game and the All-Star Game in Nashville, then I'd want to go to a Grand Slam. Like, it's maybe even more than the World Championships. I don't know. But,
Maybe.
Still got that competitive fire, eh, John?
Well, you're playing some big bucks, man. Like, we're putting some big bucks on the line. So
no, for sure.
Like, nothing against the Worlds, but you're not even playing for much money or for anything there. So that's kind of a bonus, is that these guys could, at the end of the season, could showcase their talent and cash a paycheck too, which is cool.
Absolutely.
Well, there you go. John maybe giving us a little tidbit as to where the TCG ASG might be featured in the future. John and Matt, thank you both so much for joining us. This was a pleasure. It was so great to have you two as the inaugural All-Star Game captains, and looking forward to seeing you both in the fall.
See you later. Thanks for having us.
Bye, guys. So there you have it. Johnny Moe, Matty Ham, coming through in the clutch with some thoughts. I think, Robbie, they didn't give too much away, but they gave away a little bit. There was like a few little teasers in there that if I was a fan listening, I'd be like, "Ooh, I gotta watch
and
this week."
I hope they have some Band-Aids around, because their lips are going to be bleeding from biting them so hard. They wanted to share so much more, you could just tell, but they couldn't. But you know what? Great job. I mean, I sat down for an interview today, knowing I'm going to have Matt Hamilton and John Morris here. Who better to talk to?
Oh, totally.
Especially about this. And they're just such honest guys, and they really truly did put their heart and soul into it, and they did a great job. They led both of them as captains, led their team very, very well, and of course, entertaining as always. So be sure to tune into it and see it.
Yeah, absolutely. So a reminder, if you are in Canada, it airs on July 1st, Canada Day, 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific on Sportsnet and Sportsnet Plus. For fans outside of the U.S. and Canada, It airs immediately on the Grand Slam of Curling YouTube page as soon as the Canadian airing is finished. So you can check it out either that night or the next day, July 2nd. And then if you're in the USA on July 3rd at 1 p.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. Pacific, it will be premiering on the FanDuel Sports Network and the FanDuel Sports Network app. So get excited for that. Of course, there's going to be a bunch of content also coming out. Follow the Grand Slam of Curling on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, X. Go to the grandslamofcurling.com. Some of my features are up already. The Hot Wing Challenge and the Cowboy hat. We went to Planet Cowboy, bought some cowboy hats. Those features are already up on the YouTube, and there's way more to come. So follow the Grand Slam of Curling on social media. Again, in Canada, you can watch it on Sportsnet July 1st. Internationally, on our YouTube page as soon as the Canadian premiere is over. And then July 3rd in the USA, FanDuel Sports Network, FanDuel Sportsnet Network app, 1 p.m. Eastern on July 3rd. That's it. We will be back soon, as I promised at the end of the Pride panel. Rock League captain interviews are coming up all throughout the summer. And I believe, Robbie, you're going to be doing some interviews as well. Tell the fans a little bit about that.
Yeah, that's the plan. We're going to be talking to some people who have made this sport so great over the years. We're going to try to have some chats with some legends. Not all the details are out yet, but we're working on it. It's going to be pretty cool. But in the meantime, I got to go have a baby.
Okay. Yeah, go have a baby and appreciate that. And yeah, so we're, like we said, we're going to be active on this Broom Brothers channel all summer long. Yeah. Like, subscribe, tell your friends. I'll be talking to Rock League captains. Robbie will be talking to curling legends. More about both of those things to come. But thank you so much for listening. As always, we love and appreciate you, and we will see you back here very soon. And Robbie, of course, a premature congratulations on watching your wife have a baby. Very excited.
Thank you.
Very excited for you both.
Thanks, buddy. Appreciate it.
See you,
Happy
everyone.
summer.